Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the October meeting of the Diamond Valley Writers Guild. This is our last meeting of the year, so we have fun. We do our prose readings. We also have our elections, which aren't as fun, but they need to be done anyway. A reminder for those of you on Zoom, please mute your microphones. And what? All two of you? Yeah, no. Please mute your microphones. Real quick update on the anthology. The editing is commencing, which is very, very cool. Those of you who got your letters, again, a lot of you will be looking at this on Zoom, I'm sure. We had a lot of people say they couldn't make it today, but they were hoping that they'd be able to see it on YouTube when it was uploaded. But we're starting the editing process. The wait list on the anthology is still open. Until we complete the editing on the submissions that we have, we're going to leave the wait list open. So if you've already submitted and you want to submit a second piece, a poem or a prose, or if you're a paid member and thought you missed the deadline, we can't guarantee it, but we're pretty certain we're going to be able to include those people on the wait list. It's looking that way word count wise. So feel free to submit until we send an announcement that we're closed permanently. Shout outs. That's so for Sophia. Go ahead.
I will still lean down. Okay, I'll just talk loudly. So I'm in charge of telling you guys about shout outs today. And a couple things. First,
Just talk normal. There you go. Just talk normal. You don't have to look at
the deadline's tomorrow. So if you have any shout outs for the month of September, right? So not for the month of October. The month of October will be next month that we're doing shout outs for that. But if you have any celebrations, any successes that you would like us to share to the membership, please send it to us tomorrow. And we also ask that you make it presentation ready, right? So whatever it is that you want us to shout out, which includes, book covers, a paragraph of what it is that you want to be said, please send that to the Diamond Valley Writers Guild email, because there's a lot of them, and we would really appreciate that. We want to make sure that your vision gets seen. We don't want to have to hunt down covers of books and whatnot. So if you could just send what it is that you want us to send out, we would really, really appreciate it. So thank you so much. Oh, question? As far as I'm concerned, yes, last for September. Yeah. So for things that repeat the question. The question for the Zoom was, what is the time frame of shout outs? So the deadline, and that is that for the month of September, the deadline is in October, and for the month of October, the deadline is in November. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. So to repeat what Jess just said, we open them on about the 5th of every month, and we close them at about the 20th of every month. Pretty consistent. So there we go. Any more questions? All right, no? Then I'm leaving. Bye.
Thank you, Sophia. Appreciate you giving. I appreciate you giving that information to the Guild. For Lynette, who couldn't be with us today, but just to thank you. I'm tired this morning. To reiterate, when you're submitting your shout outs, it's always for the month prior. So that's important because we're doing a celebration or an announcement based on something you did the previous calendar month. Okay, next, Jessica. She's got some announcements.
I'll give you all 3 guesses what I'm going to say about this. Call for volunteers, as always. If you want to help us set up and make these meetings possible, just come see Liam or I in the back. We'll get you started, and you can learn how to set up the hybrid system to make these international, thank you, Kevin, meetings happen. So, it's Kevin that gives us that international title. The other thing is that it is October, which means it's my favorite time of year because I have a job to do every single day, which is it's renewal season. So remember, membership is $25 per year. We don't charge on a monthly basis. We don't charge quarterly. It is just for the year, and it is one calendar year. So it is $25 for general membership, $15 for college, and $10 for high school. So if you are wanting to renew for the 2025 Guild year, you can start sending in all of your either checks or cash to the P.O. Box 1154 in Hemet. Or you can send it through PayPal, which we have links on the website, or you can just send it to dvwritersguild@gmail.com through PayPal, and we'll get it that way too. So if you have any questions about membership or renewal process, come see me or talk to Michelle, and we will get you all squared away on that.
Thank you, Jessica. Jessica's our treasurer, and she just does a phenomenal job. She's the one that's got to send everything into the IRS every year and make sure our paperwork is correct with the state, and it's a big job. It really is. Okay, now on to the moment that we've all been waiting for, the annual elections of officers. Let me pull out my stuff here. So Diamond Valley Writers Guild has a 5-member board of directors, which meets 6 times a year. Gosh darn it. I'm going to keep forgetting that. Diamond Valley Writers Guild has a 5-member board of directors, which meets 6 times a year via Zoom. All directors serve for a 2-year term. Each October, at the general membership meeting, which is today, an election is held for the position whose terms are ending. This year, we will elect 3 directors, vice president, secretary, and member at large. To help facilitate a smooth election process, here's some reminders. First off, you have to be a 2024 paid member in good standing to be eligible. Any paid member may nominate another paid member for an office. The nomination must be seconded by a paid member, at which time the nominee may accept or decline. Multiple nominations for each office are encouraged. Candidates will have an opportunity to address the membership if they so choose, and then we'll call for the vote. If only one candidate is nominated, the vote will be done by voice. If there are 2 or more nominated, the vote will be cast by ballot, in-person attendees by paper ballot, and Zoom attendees by electronic ballot. Election results are tallied and announced at today's meeting. So without any further ado, the first position that is up for re-election is vice president. Do I hear any nominations for the office of vice president? I see a hand in the back. Okay, Jessica Bruce nominates Kevin Kendall. Kevin, do you, we need a second. Oh, Sophia just said she'd second. Kevin, do you have any words to say? Would you like to accept that nomination?
I accept the nomination.
Excellent. Do you want to address posterity here on Zoom?
I don't know. It's been a fun first term. I'm looking forward to doing more with the guild.
And he's done a lot. Thank you, Kevin. Okay. Without any further ado, I will take a voice and a show of hands. Jessica will be looking on Zoom. If you're a paid member, please put your video camera back on, because we need to see you if you're a paid member. And then she'll be counting on the Zoom. I'll be counting in the room. All paid members can vote. All in favor of Kevin Kendall for the office of vice president, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Congratulations, Kevin. You are elected to the term for 2 years as vice president. Just so you know, this is the first time he's actually run for the office. He was appointed into it last time. So, this time it's official, I guess. Next office is the office of, where was I? Thank you, secretary. Do I have any nominations from the floor for the office of secretary? Oh, Aiden's raised his hand in the back. Yes. Aiden has nominated Sophia Barber. Do I hear a second from anyone in the room? Greg seconds. Sophia, would you like to say anything? You can come on up. I love your outfit, by the way. I don't know if you can't see it. She's got little kittens and pumpkins on today.
It is Halloween, and it matches. I have earrings that are the same thing. That doesn't really have anything to do with being the secretary. But I also have a bracelet that matches that I decided not to wear today because I figured it would make too much noise when I was up here, dangling the whole time. I do accept the nomination, and I really enjoyed being secretary for the Guild. Honestly, it's really allowed me to get better at minute taking and understanding the ins and outs of a nonprofit organization. So I really appreciate how much the Guild has done for me in this sense. And I'm pretty in the groove with it. I basically understand how minutes work, and I've been working very, very hard with the board of directors, and I haven't received any complaints, so I can only assume that I'm doing well. So thank you. I hope you guys vote for me.
Thank you, Sophia. Yes, I think you are doing well, and this will be her second term of office. Is there any other nominations for the floor for the office of secretary? No, you can't nominate her again. Unruly group. So no further ado. All in favor of Sophia Barber for the office of secretary, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Seeing no one opposed, the motion carries. And Sophia, congratulations. Another 2 years, you are stuck as secretary. Okay, the third office is member at large. And the member at large office is a kind of a catch-all office in that they interface with membership, send out the shout-outs. They're hopefully the voice of the members. So do we have any nominations for the office of member at large? Okay. Huh? You've got a nomination, Kevin. Who are you nominating?
I'll nominate Lynette Tucker.
Okay, Lynette, do I have a second for Lynette? Jessica Bruce seconds. Okay, Lynette is not here to speak on her behalf, but she did give me permission to accept the nomination on her behalf. And this will be, unfortunately, will be her last term because there is a 6-year term limit on board of directors, 6-year, 3-term limit. So this will be her last 2 years. And then she has to take 2 more years off before she could run for another office. So she has graciously agreed to accept the office, and that's about it. She's doing a great job, by the way. All right, any other nominations from the floor for member at large? Okay, seeing no additional nominations, all in favor of Lynette Tucker for member at large, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, Lynette. You have been drafted for 2 more years. So at this point, I will close the elections for 2024. Someone's at the door, and I'll let them in. Okay. So that's the end of our general meeting for the purpose of the minutes at whatever time. Someone do a time clock. I'm sure Sophia's keeping track of that. 9:56. And we're going to move on to the rest of our October meeting. So this is one of my favorite parts of the program, and that is successes. Member successes, project starts, completions, recent publications. Does anyone have anything to announce that has happened since the last meeting in their careers or their hobbies? Any project starts? Anything like that? Anyone in the room? You've got an announcement, I believe. Didn't you have a book coming out this month, John? Yeah. Come out here. Come to the mic real quick. Come on. John has an announcement.
Hi, everybody. John McBurty, Colonel Mac. So I have a 3-part book series on how to get published on Amazon. So what I did when I started this adventure, I kept notes on what I did from the basic. Part 1 is the writing exercises I kind of created for people that just want to learn how to start writing. Part 2 is something that would apply to everybody in this room. This is all the tricks that I had for promoting my books myself, getting on Amazon, how to do it, part 2. So that's for like everybody here. Part 3 came out last Monday on Christopher Columbus Day. And that's inspirational quotations and other writings by a combat veteran. So I take all 3 books, put it together. We're going to cover later one of the chapters in writing book reviews. So I kind of define the different parts of a book, give examples from my work. Anyway, that's it. Thank you.
Congratulations, John. I'll tell you, I think you're probably the most prolific writer that I personally have had the pleasure to meet recently. He puts a lot of words out, a lot of words. Any other publications, project starts, anything like that anyone wants to share? I do have something here. Let's see. You have another one? Okay, well, wait, and I'll do this one real quick, and then you can have the mic again. Okay, so tomorrow is the Temecula Valley Writers and Illustrators meeting. They're kind of a sister organization. They're down in Temecula. They meet at the City Hall on the 3rd Sunday. So it's always the day after, unless it's a strange numbered month. Sometimes it does fall the week before, but most of the time it's the day after our meeting. Their format's a little different. Their guest speaker this month is one of our guest speakers from a couple of months ago, and that's Dennis Crosby. He spoke on the life basically of a private eye to our group. He's going to be speaking on networking as an introvert to their group. Much shorter presentation. Their meetings are the same length, but they also do some other things like break out into groups and things of that nature. But if you have time on Sunday, they would appreciate to have new people come down there too. They are, as I said, kind of a sister organization at this point. Okay, John, come up and make your announcement.
Yeah, I forgot to mention, I had spoken with Michelle and told her about it, but since the last meeting, it's weird. Well, like, again, I'm a self-published guy. I'm not a big-time author. I don't have an agent. I don't have big book deals or anything like that. I just really enjoy creating content and putting it out there. So I am what I am. But I always had a vision of starting my own support group, writing support group. And I work with several veterans writing groups, try to help vets get started in it. It's real like therapy for particularly PTSD kind of guys. And it really helps them. It's helped me a lot. So I was able to start my own group along with Major General Gravitt, Peter Gravitt, who's a guy I worked with on active duty, who's published 2 books. He and I have just gotten together. We started a group, 40th Infantry Division Veterans Writing Support Group. Our first meeting's on the 4th, I think, 2nd or 4th of November. And anyway, I'm very excited about that. And then I wrote another book since the last meeting, and it's called Veterans Survival Guide. And I just got the idea. It's weird how, an idea to write a book just comes up and sometimes just bites you in the butt. And that's the case with me. And then I just sit down and start knocking it out. And that's been the case with me. So I did this based on a podcast. I did a podcast with a Navy chief who's a Purple Heart guy, and he works for a lot of veterans organizations to help other veterans. Long story short, I kept going to this website. I kept going back to it to watch it. And it was just so enlightening. I said, I'm going to make a book out of this. And that's what I did. And he jumped on board, and that's with my final editor. It'll be out. I'm going to release it on Veterans Day. I always release on key historical dates. So Veterans Day this year, that'll come out.
Congratulations again. So if you want to give us some information on your Veterans Writers Support Group, and we'll put out an announcement. We'll do a blast out to the membership on that. Okay. Well, it looks like it's the John show today. Our writing tip for today is how to write book reviews. And John has graciously agreed to do that writing tip. So the mic again is all yours.
Yeah. Okay, so on the share screen, which is weird because I'm used to looking at my computer, and so this will be a little unusual based off the screen. Okay, let's go to the website first. Yeah, and to the let's go to my website first. The John Writes History. So part 3 of this book breaks down different parts of a book. One of the chapters is how to write reviews, book reviews. And I'm in 6+ writing support groups. And I have found that I've written reviews for like almost everybody in every group because I like writing reviews. But I'm finding that a lot of authors don't know how to do them, or don't do them, or whatever. So I came up with a class to teach one of my groups how to do it. So go up to more. That's my website. And if you have a PDF or something that Michelle might have kicked out, you can refer to the PDF for this little block of instruction. Go up to more and go to the bottom, the last page, John's book review class. So scroll down, that's the book review class. If you want to watch it, this is the lengthier version. It also covers blurbs. Down there, the hit video. Anyway, that's for your own edification for further study. So we can get out of that. Go to the Amazon. Okay, so if you want to do a book review, this is how you do it for somebody on Amazon. So you look here. This is my authors page. Go to my latest creation, which is over here. Go to the hit that. Go to paperback. Okay, good. You guys, I'm sure, have all done this. You have these web pages. Scroll down to the bottom of this page. Oh, go to the top. Look at that. #1 new release. That's always a good thing. Let's scroll down to the bottom. Editorial reviews. Okay, editorial reviews is something that you can control your own destiny. They don't validate editorial reviews. So, like me, I don't have any reviews yet on this book, but I've got like 5 or 6 editorial reviews that, other, well, I got CBS, I got some Cal State, Writers Guild of America, a couple guys have given me blurbs. I put them on there. So let's go down below, please. A little slower. Okay, the rankings are looking pretty good for Middle Eastern historical fiction. And one thing about your algorithm on Amazon, they reward you for more product. I'm living proof. All my books are in the top 100 in whatever category, not because I'm a great writer. It's because my algorithm is good because I create a lot of product. I put out a book almost every 2 months. They reward you for your work. So so you want to, as co-writers, you want to follow each other, okay? So you would hit follow, but go ahead, go on down. You have to be signed in Amazon to do that. Okay, here we go. Reviews. Write a customer review. You click on that. It's as simple as clicking that mouse. Now it's probably going to ask you for password and all that. So here you go. Rating, a blurb bullet, and you write something. Literally, you could write, this is a great book. Some people write that. Anything helps the author. So that's how you get there. So we'll get out of there and go to the manuscript in a Word document. And I know you have a time thing. I'll try to go fast. You okay? Okay. Well, if it's a rush thing, let me know and give me the whatever. Okay, so here we go. Here's the Zoom. I updated it from a previous class I did. I added to my repertoire publisher because I started military books and more publishing. Okay, small company. It's just me helping veterans and veteran family members to self-publish. get on Amazon and get started. So that's what that is. So those are my websites. Did you kick out the PDF to everybody on this PDF? Okay, I have a PDF of this document. This is basically a chapter from the Part 3 book. And so let's slowly scroll down. Okay, that's Part 3, and that's what we're talking about today. Okay, how to write a review. Okay, so that's just down. Okay, table of contents for the book. And in this period of instruction, I covered those 2 chapters. And go down. Okay, that's just the introduction to the book. I won't bore you with that. That's how you do the review for an author, what we already covered. So go down, please. Okay, here we go. Book reviews these are of my books. Highlighted red could be review. I highlighted red what you could pull out of a review and make as a blurb. Okay, so let's go down. Next page. Okay. Let's go to, are you in the Word document? Go hit go up to, hit your cursor on what? And then go into, put your cursor on the word what exactly up there? Yeah. And then now go up to review, the tab review at the top. No, keep your cursor on what exactly and go up to the tab review. Good. Now go over to A, read out loud. And I'm doing this to demonstrate this is a great way to edit your work. When I do my editing, I do Grammarly professional to death until I have it perfect in my little mind. Then I go here to hear the audio version. It's a great way to QC your work because you hear it. We all speak conversational English. We don't all, like myself, know proper grammar. Like I don't have a master's in English literature or anything like that. I barely could pass English. So I rely on this. If it doesn't sound right, it's probably not right. So hit that review and then the A. Hit read out loud, please. You know, turn up your volume. Don't you have a speaker on the computer? Yeah. But you'll have local sound. If you turn it up, you'll have local sound. Yeah. Mac's always full of secrets. It's not the end of the world. I just didn't want to sit here being a talking head reading. I wanted to show you how this system works. But anyway.
It's okay, John. Just go ahead and read it out loud. Okay, we didn't realize you needed audio as well as the other.
So basically, folks, this is, up the top is my definition of what a book review is. Then I have Webster and the professional definition. So I can, the primary objective, again, here I go with military terms again. What do you expect after 32 years in uniform? You'll find that with all my writing, I have levity in almost everything I write. That's just one little example. So, LOL. The purpose of book reviews is to honestly evaluate a manuscript, book, script, poem, song, lyrics, etc. Topics typically addressed in a review include introduction, overview, conclusion by the reviewer, summary of the storyline or plot, details about the main characters and themes, and the reviewer's positive or negative opinions of the author's style. Now that's a comprehensive review. Again, sometimes you can just throw a blurb in there. Something is better than nothing, I think, as far as reviews. And then here's the textbook. A book review is a descriptive and critical or evaluative account of a book. Okay, and more reviews. So go down a little bit. Okay, this is how I structured this chapter. I have the first part of the chapter is I have book reviews of my books, okay? The second part are book reviews I wrote for colleagues, okay? The third part I omitted because it's part of my master's degree program in American history and it's academic and it's kind of boring. And then the fourth is reviews that I wrote while researching other authors' books, writing and self-publishing. So in my books, instead of listing a reference, I write a review of the reference. as a way of helping the reader, okay? Instead of just saying, hey, Joe Blow wrote a good book on how to publish. I wrote a review, a paragraph 2 or 3 or whatever. Some of them that I really liked, I wrote like 3 pages. But anyway, so let's go down. Next page. Amazon 5-star reviews. Next. These are my books. Okay, I'm not going to read them all, but I'll read you the blurbs. The book is truly a compelling and thought-provoking read. And Colonel Mack is a talented writer, a very bright future ahead of himself. I love this book. So these are my books, combat essays, children's golf book. Okay, keep going. That's just a good blurb. Okay, Combat Journal, 4-book series that I'm working on the compilation now in part 6. But anyway, keep going. These are blurbs. 5-star Amazon reviews, profound story. Go down. Go down. These are my books. I'll keep going down. This is just all my books and stuff. Now, I don't have a plethora of reviews. These are what you see is pretty much what you get. Some people have 150. I have 6, 7, 10. My new book, a none. Okay, so here's what I wrote on for colleagues, which are people like you. I would write a review for. If you do nonfiction, I'm there for you. If you do poetry and fiction, I'll get back to you. Not my expertise. Anyway, a friend of mine, Dr. Darden, he's written a couple of psychology books, and he did a leadership book. I did a leadership book. Wow. So we did reviews for each other, and I think he wrote the foreword. And so anyway, his analysis and approach to the subject is nothing short of groundbreaking. Okay, down. Dr. Darden hits the mark with Enemy in the Bush. It's an absolute must-read for all veterans or anyone seeking self-improvement. Next page. Bo. He's another psychology. His wife's a PsyD. He's a master's degree counselor, and they work with veterans. And I've done a bunch of reviews for him. He's a great guy. And keep going down. That's a poetry friend of mine. Okay, keep going down. Oh, this is a guy I just found. What I do sometimes is I'll look for like books of my genre on Amazon, and if it sparks my interest, I'll read them. And if I like them, I generally do a book review. And sometimes I'll contact the guys if you can contact. And that's what I did with a couple of these guys. Keep going down. Great effort, Steve. Look forward to your next masterpiece. Yuri the Pig. Keep going down. Met that person on Goodreads. Keep going down. Okay. Oh, which is, I love this book. Here's why would I be interested in reading this book? The book cover was intriguing and caught my eye. The most important part of a book, in my opinion, the title and the book cover. His book cover caught my eye. A veteran wrote the book. I'm a veteran, and we served in the Cold War at the same time. And I just finished, I had written my autobiography, hadn't come out yet, but I wanted to see how another veteran wrote an autobiography. That's why I read it. So next page. So there's a review I wrote. This is probably the lengthiest that I've written. So anyway, and again, I throw some levity into it. Okay, I think that fellow veterans would enjoy reading this story. It did drag in places, so I tell the truth. It did drag. You bet your butt it did. But it was worth getting through the rough patches and getting to the exciting stuff, which is sex, drugs, foreign women, traveling, exotic countries, women. Oh, I already said that. So anyway, I try to get funny with stuff. Next page. That's General Gravitt. Again, we're doing the group together. Next page. Okay. Analytical reviews. I omitted that. Next page. Okay, here's a good example of a good book title. And that's why I bought this book, and it's number 1 in my library. I've read this book probably 10 times. Okay, Penny, How to Sell Books by the Truckload on Amazon. It's a top-selling, great book. Anyway, next page. Next page. These are source publications for how to write that I don't just put I write reviews for them. Next page. Okay. And then blurbs. Okay, so I won't get into blurbs. That's book review. kind of the 411 on how to do book reviews. And another thing I always do when I'm at these places, wherever I give a talk anywhere, I have a sign-in sheet. And this is how you accumulate a mailing list, email list. And every book I read on how to write has always, one common thread, they always says create a mailing list. I didn't do it the first year. I started the second year. I'm over 320 names on my mailing list because every time I go somewhere, I pass this around. And I say, look, you don't have to divulge your personal information, but if you give me your email address, I'll probably send you a free ebook. That's just what I do. Thank you.
Thank you, John. So I think the takeaway here is that it's important to support other writers by giving reviews on Amazon because that helps put them back in front of other readers. So it's a rising tide lifts all boats sort of a moment where we help each other by reviewing each other's works when they're on Amazon. Thank you again, John, for the writing tip. One more time, round of applause. Okay, now we're going to launch into what I think is the fun part, is our opportunity for us to read and to have an audience for our work. I'm going to turn this part of the meeting over to Jessica.
Every time I touch the microphone, it shocks me. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the third annual JoLynne Buehring Memorial Prose Reading. This is my favorite meeting of the year. I love getting to listen to all of the people's writing and to see what everyone's been working on over the year. And it's just a great way to end out the Guild year with a bang, in my opinion. So we are going to get started. We have several readers to get through. So first up is Michelle Bassett.
I'm not sure how I got first on the list, but that's fine. Get it out of the way. I didn't do the list, apparently. Somebody else did who decided to keep me up here. So I'm going to read from last month. An anthology was published in Temecula. I think I mentioned that at last month's meeting. And I have a story in it. It's a magical realism piece set in 1974 in Temecula. The anthology theme was all the stories had to take place and or be involved with the Temecula Valley. And I submitted, and I am the first story in the second volume. The name of my piece is The Golden Triangle. I'm going to only read the first scene because that came in under the word limit. The rest of it's a 5,000 word story. I guess you have to go to Amazon and buy it if you want to read the rest of it. Stay a While Longer is the name of the book, The Golden Triangle. I do write under the name of M.B. Bruce, so don't Google Michelle Bassett on Amazon, Google M.B. Bruce. A strong gust of wind slammed the office trailer's flimsy door wide open. The neat stacks of maps and property flyers on Connie Albright's improvised desk, an aluminum folding table mail ordered from Montgomery Ward catalog, fanned into chaos amid a swirl of dirt and debris. Amanda, her 4-year-old, a moment ago who played quietly in the corner among a pile of Lincoln logs, shrieked. Connie lunged for the door and wrestled it shut. It's okay, it's just the Santa Anas. Amanda's face scrunched. I hate Santas. Despite her sour mood, Connie smiled at her daughter's adorable mispronunciation. Me too, baby. Want to go home? Her daughter whined with a pouty face. We'll leave soon. Play with your toys until Mommy's done working, okay? Okay. She echoed in a forlorn voice, then returned to the miniature red-brown logs and green roof tiles. Bitter sweetness pressed against Connie's heart. Even-tempered and easygoing, Amanda was so like her father. There was a time, not so long ago, when the observation would have caused Connie unbearable grief. Now, she embraced her sadness as a testament to the love they'd shared. She only wished Kenny had lived long enough to meet his little girl. Gathering up the papers scattered by the devil winds, as the locals so aptly called them, Connie glanced at the wall clock. 3:30 and still no return call from Mr. Cordova. He hadn't been overly thrilled with the offer received on his 80-acre parcel. She could hardly blame him. Although all cash with a quick escrow, the buyer's offer was low. But with interest rates up over 10% and the conflict in Vietnam dragging on, vacant land in the Temecula Valley just wasn't selling. Still, she'd hoped to hear back from him by now. Caught between being perceived as pushy and a genuine concern that the buyer would withdraw their offer, Connie picked up the phone and dialed. After the third ring, her seller answered, his deep voice pleasantly accented. Buenos dias. Hello, Mr. Cordova. I hate to bother you, but Connie, I was about to call you. Her heart did a little flip. He sounded upbeat, a good sign. I've considered the offer, and after deducting all the costs involved plus your commission, I'm sorry, it's just not enough for me to be interested. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath, trying to keep the disappointment out of her voice. I understand. However, I have an idea. I own another property, 5 acres on Winchester Road, just off the highway. If you're willing to take that in lieu of your commission, we have a deal. Gee, Mr. Cordova, I don't know. Think it over and get back to me. I'm in no hurry. He may not be, but she certainly was. Connie had bills to pay and a little girl to feed, and for that she needed money, not 5 acres of dirt and weeds in the middle of nowhere. Okay, I'll think about it. Replacing the receiver in the cradle, Connie leaned back in the folding chair and stared out the window. Billows of dust ghosted across the 2-lane highway. Cars, in their haste to get wherever they were going, whizzed on by. A tumbleweed blew across the parking lot, hit the rear bumper of her 71 Carmen Ghia, and broke apart. Every weekend for the past 6 months, she'd sat in this office trailer, and although sometimes people stopped on their way between here and there, a few even professing an interest in buying, no one ever did. After Kenny was killed in action, Connie moved inland to Temecula because rent was cheaper than Oceanside. She got her real estate license in hopes of building a better life for her and her daughter, struggling to launch a new career while living in a one-room flat behind a gas station and waiting tables to make ends meet didn't exactly fit Connie's definition of success. Pushing out of the chair, she knelt beside her daughter. Time to go, baby. Together they put away the toys. Maybe it was time to admit they had no future in California. At least in Nevada, she had family willing to help. Her stomach churned at the thought, not that she didn't love her parents, but she'd been on her own since 18. At 23, she was too set in her ways to retreat home. Helping her daughter with her sneakers, Connie ushered her out the door and locked up. As they hurried down the metal steps, a gust buffeted the trailer. The warm wind carried the scent of sage and ragweed, making her eyes water. Her dark hair, charged with static electricity, rioted into a frizzy mess. A pickup truck slowed and turned into the parking lot, one of those new square-body Chevys, light blue with white side panels. The driver, a sandy-haired man in his mid to late 20s, rolled down the window. "Excuse me, are you the real estate lady?" Connie met his gaze over the roof of her car, assessing his inquisitive expression and polite smile. He didn't look like a serial killer. She raised her voice above the wind. "Yes, what can I do for you? I inherited a piece of property from my grandmother somewhere around here. Been driving in circles trying to find it. I could use some help. Do you know what street it's on?" He shook his head. "All I've got is a plat map, a legal description, and this." He held up an open Thomas Brothers map book. Vacant land wasn't always easy to locate, but Connie had a knack for it. Once she situated her daughter in the passenger seat and closed the car door, she came around to the driver's side of the truck. "Let me have a look." Through his open window, he passed her 2 loose sheets of paper. She laid them flat against the side of the truck, holding them down to keep the pages from flapping in the wind. By studying the plat map and then the legal description, Connie had a pretty good idea where the property was located. The turnoff is just a couple of miles back up the highway. It's on an easement. That's probably why you're having trouble finding it. I'm heading that way. I could show you. She handed back his paperwork and met his eyes. Hazel, with flecks of green. "If you're sure it's not too much trouble." His engaging smile came across as both shy and confident, transforming pleasant features into downright attractive. She found herself smiling back. "No trouble." "I'm sorry, where's my manners?" He stuck out his hand out the open window. "I'm Aaron Temple." "Connie." They shook. "Connie Albright." That was the first scene.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Next up, we have, welcoming back to the podium again, John McBrearty.
Does it matter which one I read? There's 2 different ones at different times. Okay. So I write nonfiction, and this is an essay from this book, Combat Essays. When I was in Iraq, I basically sent essays or articles about what we were doing in our year-long deployment to local newspapers, family of soldiers and whatnot to inform them what we're doing. And there's about 18 essays in this book. They're all short. Like most of these are 1 or 2 pages. So I'll read one today. Chapter 13 is entitled 3 Countries Working Together for Peace, January 27th, 2005. December 4th, 2004 was a monumentous day for the Armor Battalion, marking the culmination of the 10th month of deployment in Iraq. It was a day that symbolized the power of collaboration as 3 countries with diverse cultures united to work together towards a peaceful future for Iraq. The newly renovated hospital in the city of Shamali, Iraq, was dedicated at 11:15 that day. The town's mayor, Amir Malik Hanoush, Colonel Ortega from the El Salvadoran Army, and me, Major McBurney from the U.S. Army, were present, underscoring the unity of effort of these 3 countries. A large crowd of Iraqi medical staff and local citizens, El Salvadoran and American security forces were present. They let out a thunderous round of applause upon cutting the ceremonial ribbon. Colonel Roberto Ortega Chicas and the unit known as Battalion Custalante III, El Salvador Army Forces, spearheaded the repair of the health center for the city of Shamli, which is in Iraq's Babel province. This is the only hospital in the city that hosts a population of 10,000 Iraqi citizens. Following the ribbon cutting, the Iraqi medical staff took the lead in escorting the 3 government officials on a tour of the newly renovated facility. The scene was reminiscent of a United Nations General Assembly session, with 3 translators facilitating communication between Arabic, Spanish, and English speakers. Medical staff explained the uses of the newly obtained medical equipment, a crucial part of the renovation project. Repairs at the health center included ceilings, roofs, finishing exterior and interior walls, constructing a new fence, and repairs to numerous doors and windows, as well as providing a myriad of new medical equipment. Commander's Emergency Response Program, or SERP, Development Funds for Iraq, DFI, for $47,470 were used to resource the project. The Armor Battalion's S5 section, which is civil affairs, the civil affairs team, headed up the management and oversight of the project. And engineering assistance for the hospital renovation project, once funded, the construction took only 60 days to complete. Civil military operations are nothing new for the Armor Battalion, as its members have had much success by focusing their efforts on 5 major areas of reconstruction and development. Such projects include canals, roadways, water systems, electrical systems, and schools. The approach to the 3-tiered system: first, assess and identify the area's deficiencies and needs of the people. Second, inspect, categorize, and prioritize identified problem areas. Third, resource the projects utilizing local nationals as contractors in the workforce, thus injecting money into the local economy. The higher military commands have applauded this uniquely simple and proven approach that could be considered a model for future efforts in Iraq. The humanitarian efforts of the Armor Battalion and the El Salvadorans mark a triumph in the coalition's effort to assist Iraq in creating a brighter future for their country. The grand reopening of Shamli Health Center is a significant event here in central southern Iraq. It is yet another example of how 3 vastly different cultures came together for a common cause: a better, safer, and freer Iraq for generations to come. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, John. Next up, please welcome to the podium Sophia Barber.
Hello. So this is just a short little piece that I've had in the works for a little bit about a fantasy world that I've been writing about. So this piece takes place in the middle of the story, perhaps like the first third, describing one of the main characters meeting her love interest for the second time. And it's titled A Forbidden Meeting. Ismene sat primly on the bed as she watched her sister glide around the room. Adira was walking back and forth between the closet and the vanity, carefully considering each and every jewelry piece and article of clothing. She already decided on a modest dark green gown for today, but was still stuck on how she should accessorize it. I like the gold one, Ismene offered as her sister held up 2 necklaces, one gold and one silver. It will go better with your dress, won't it? It would, Adira agreed smoothly before putting both necklaces away. But it's not about what would look good. It's about what will go over well in court. Ismene looked at her sister sadly. Adira's usual graceful movements were beginning to show an edge of annoyance. She shuts the lid of the jewelry box with more force than is necessary and turns around with a harsh sigh. Is this because of His Highness? Ismene asked as she watched her sister carefully. Adira does not respond for a long time, and Ismene quickly realizes that she won't even get a satisfactory answer until Adira put all the boxes of accessories away. Are you ignoring me? Ismene huffed, crossing her arms childishly. No, of course not. I would never ignore you, Adira responded with her diplomatic voice. Ismene hated that voice. Somehow, whenever Adira pulled that out, she won every argument, even if she was wrong, like right now. I'm ignoring the question. Why, because you don't like the answer? Ismene got off the bed and walked up behind Adira as she was clasping her chosen necklace, a choker of pearls with a red jewel placed in the center. Adira glanced at her sister out of the corner of her eye and raised an eyebrow. Ignoring Ismene's question once more, Adira said, I won't be back until the evening, so I've prepared some snacks for you should you get hungry. They're in the cabinet. Ismene groaned and slumped her shoulders. You are impossible, you know that? Adira smiled and reached out to pull Ismene into a hug. Ismene quickly accepted her embrace and burrowed her face into her shoulder. I know this is hard on you, Izzy, Adira whispered, but it won't be forever. I just need more time to set things up for you. You know what will happen if we rush this and Father finds out. Ismene winced and nodded. Good. So will you trust me? I trust you, Adira. Always, Ismene whispered back. Thank you. Adira pulled away and stepped towards the door. Just as her hand reached the door handle, she turned back and smiled at her. See you in a few hours. Ismene smiled back and watched as her sister stepped into the hallway and closed the door behind her. Then she waited. Ismene stood perfectly still as she mentally counted the seconds. Slowly, she crept back towards the bed. She looked back over at the door she filled with the blankets, looking as though she were making the bed. Ismene let go of the covers and, without ceasing looking at the door, crouched down next to the bed. With one hand, she felt around for her secret pile. At the count of 50, Ismene pulled out her hidden clothes and raced over to the changing screen. With lightning speed, she shed her fancy outer layer and put on her servant's attire. She stepped out from behind the screen and pulled on the strings of the apron, cinching it tighter. Ismene whirled in front of the mirror and smiled with glee. Perfect, she thought. I looked like the kind of lady-in-waiting Adira would have. Ismene leaned forward to get a better look at herself in the mirror. All except for my eyes, of course, she thought bitterly. Ismene's blue eyes stared back at her from the mirror, the glow of mana clearly visible. It's not as though ladies-in-waiting were never magic users, but if they were on the low end of the magic scale. Otherwise, they wouldn't be maids or assistants. Anyone with Ismene's level of mana would be at least a soldier or magical scholar. Ismene scowled and turned away. She couldn't cover her eyes, so she would have to be careful to not make eye contact with anyone. That will be easy, Ismene thought cheerfully as she stepped out into the hallway and began making her way over to the linen closet for this floor of the palace. Servants aren't supposed to make eye contact with the nobles anyway. At least, that's what Mother told me. Ismene easily traveled through the halls of the palace, always looking as though she was meant to be somewhere, even if that was just around the corner to get a better look at the place. No one paid her much mind, as she kept her head down and diligently avoided any servants who looked as though they were able to give orders. And honestly, this was a much better way to see the beauty of the royal palace and its court. Ismene walked all over the east wing, taking in the sights and sounds. Adira would be in the main hall and its offshoots for most of the day, so as long as she stayed on this side of the palace, she would never be caught. Eventually, in all of Ismene's wandering, she found herself at the eastern end of the royal gardens. Clean rows of hedges surrounded colorful patches of flowers that gently swayed to the cool breeze of the afternoon. This section of the royal gardens was partially cordoned off by the walls of the east wing. There was a large fountain in the center of the garden, and the sounds of its bubbling water was what originally drew Ismene to this part of the palace. But as she stepped out onto the cobblestone path, something else drew her attention. Sitting on the ledge of the fountain was the eldest Delroy's son. His brows were furrowed in concentration as he looked at the letter in his hand. The envelope Ismene guessed it came from was lying open next to him, right next to the mage sword sheathed and leaned against the fountain edge. His hair is much redder in the sunlight, Ismene thought. Killian Delroy was the man who she ran into the first time she left her sister's quarters. She'd been searching for bandages after a dear returned from speaking with their father, when she had literally bumped into Killian, spilling the bandages everywhere. He'd been ever so kind and gentlemanly towards her, apologizing and even offering to help her carry them back to her sister's room. Of course, Ismene hadn't told Killian that she was Adira's sister. No one was supposed to know she was here, let alone a Delroy. So she lied and said she was Adira's lady-in-waiting. It was a cover story she'd been going with ever since, even though no one had even questioned her since then, or spoken to her, or looked at her. It was too risky. But Killian, he already knew her as Adira's servant, and he was so kind. One conversation wouldn't hurt, would it? Never mind that their families were sworn enemies. That was Ismene Aldrich's problem, not Ismene the lady-in-waiting. Killian looked up from his letter as Ismene approached him, and his expression immediately softened. He folded the letter up and placed it into his breast pocket. "Miss Ismene, it's a pleasure to see you again." Ismene grinned. No one had ever told her that before. "Likewise, Lord Delroy. I'm sorry if I interrupted you," Ismene replied, gesturing towards the open envelope. Killian shook his head and smiled. "Not at all. In fact, I was just in need of a change of scenery." Both of them stared at each other for a moment before Killian stood up and Ismene sat down. Flustered, both attempted to rectify the situation by changing positions once more and rushing out apologies. Finally, Killian cleared his throat and patted the stone next to him. "Please, sit, my lady. I'm sorry I didn't invite you sooner." Ismene blushed as she sat down, nervously balling her hands in her skirts. No, please, Lord Delroy, I'm sorry. I don't really know what to say or do. I'm new at court. I remember you mentioning that. Lady Adira brought you from her father's estate, correct?" Ismene nodded, and Killian continued. "I'm surprised Lord Aldrich ever allowed his daughter to be without handmaidens." Killian didn't say any more, but the unspoken question lay heavy in the air. Why now? Why you? Ismene could never tell him the truth, and had no good lies on hand, so she settled for evading the question as any good Aldrich would do. "Yes, well, my lady has always been rather independent. Are you close with her?" Ismene asked. Killian shook his head. "No, I'd never even met her before I returned with the prince. My family left court when I was very young." Again, what was left unsaid was heavy. The Delroys left court because of the death of Lady Nymeria Delroy, Killian's mother. Rumor was she was poisoned by the Aldrich family. "I'm sorry." Killian cleared his throat again. "I haven't asked about you yet. How have you been faring, my lady? Last time I saw you, you were carrying all those bandages." Ismene chuckled nervously and replied, "Yes, I'm fine. Again, thank you for your assistance that day, my lord." Killian smiled, and Ismene's heart flipped. It was the right thing to do. "Well, you could have just walked on. I was the clumsy one, after all." The conversation fell to silence as Ismene trailed off, a blush on her cheeks. She had been staring into his beautiful eyes for far too long. She needed to look away and find something else to talk about. My lord, are you familiar with the red diamond dahlia?" Ismene stuttered, pointing at the red flower in the nearest hedgerow. "It was first planted here nearly 1,000 years ago. King Aaron wished to play a prank on his color-blind brother, Prince Louis, by gifting him the brightest red flower in the land. That was the one he chose, or so I read." Killian turned to look at it. "I didn't know that. Are you a fan of history?" he asked. "Yes, but more accurately, I'd say I'm a fan of plants and animals, so I read whatever books are about those. I have a book at home all about the tales of the royal garden," she responded. Killian's posture relaxed as he leaned forward and began to ask her more questions. Ismene pretended the air had finally cleared between the Aldrichs and the Delroys as they discussed anything other than the court and their families.
Thank you very much, Sophia. All right, moving right along, we next have Letitia Bradford.
I'm used to sitting down to do my work, but this podium will hold me. Okay. My name is Letitia Garcia Bradford, and I wrote this piece, over 10 years ago, but what I've learned more lately, that it would be more like a personal essay. But when I wrote it, you always need to know your audience, and at the time, my audience was all the guys in a bar on open mic night. So they understood it beautifully. And I want you to think about back in 2012, some of you may remember a movie called Miss Congeniality with Sarah Bullock. And so I'll mention her in there, but for maybe some that don't know, she is an FBI agent that goes undercover in a beauty pageant. And I think every girl like myself wanted to be Miss America. So, but you had to walk in a certain way and all that. So, the title of my piece is How to Slip on a Banana Peel Gracefully. Have you ever slipped on a banana peel and fallen on your ass, said a minimum of 3 cuss words, and perhaps even broken a tailbone? Have you ever seen someone else slip on a banana peel and laugh your ass off until you realize they were hurt? Don't worry, you are not an asshole for laughing. It is human instinct to react so thoughtlessly. I had to learn this in graduate school. Well, falling is funny. Have you ever seen Charlie Chaplin slip on a banana peel? My business card says, I fall down for a living. This is no joke about it. My most dramatic falls have been on stage or in a theater, which has netted me a broken arm, a blown out knee, and yes, a broken funny bone. The time I shared my multiple sclerosis story on stage, I purposely tripped and dropped my walking stick. This stuff really happens to me, and I wanted to show on stage what has become routine in my life. Well, my open mic friends didn't know I had MS and were overly sympathetic. I started laughing. It's all part of the shtick. Haven't you seen Steve Martin fall? I thought they were going to hit me. I am sure they felt manipulated. They have since forgiven me and let me back up on stage. My favorite true falling joke. What goes bumpity bump? Shit. My mother falling down the stairs. When I told John, he laughed his ass off. Thank you, John. And yes, that really happened. So, how do you fall gracefully? You don't. The recovery is what is important. How quick can you get back up and save face? Sandra Bullock shows this well in the movie Miss Congeniality. Okay, I'm up after she's fallen in front of the whole audience and national television. Okay, I'm up. Sometimes it is not quick. Often a bruised ego hurts more than the broken bone. When I fell in the theater, the students laughed. I am glad it was dark so they couldn't see my red face. That was my problem. Note to self, what goes bump in the dark? You never know what goes. I fall. The ego can take longer to heal than the bone. Ouch. This is a new acronym I learned. LMF, love my faults. Learning to love oneself is a lifelong lesson. I had to learn how to forgive myself for my vulnerabilities, physically and emotionally, and be gentle to myself. I had to learn how to trust again that the ground would rise up to meet me when I take that next step. My wish for you, the next time you put a smile on someone else's face, it will be because you smiled first. By the way, I have forgiven John for laughing his ass off and let him buy me a margarita. Salute. There we go. More chatter. I still walk in the dark. I love it and have done it since I was a kid living in a creaky house. My other true falling down joke. How many Mexicans does it take to change the battery on a smoke detector? 2. 1 to climb the ladder, get electrocuted and fall off the ladder. And the other one to call 911. I'm glad my daughter is an EMT. In case you didn't figure out, I am the Mexican in the joke. This story is dedicated to John, who has had his share of banana peels. Thank you. I love this podium. I'm going to take it home.
New pen. All righty. Thank you so much, Letitia. Next up, once again, is John McBraerty for part 2.
You've heard of short and sweet. Well, this is short anyway. I don't know how sweet it is, but it's just a bunch of military stuff. It's all I spew out. Anyway, so back to combat essays. Okay, this is only 1 page, so it's going to be short. This one's chapter 5, entitled "Letter to the Editor from the Front Lines," number 1, and I believe I sent 3 letters to the editor that landed in this book. So part of what I did in Iraq, I had 1,000 soldiers I was responsible for. Part of my sanity was writing, and that's why I kept my journal. And people would say, you got all these things you've written. I said, well, yeah, a lot of them I wrote 20 years ago when I was in the desert. So, but that got me through a lot of hard times, being able to put my thoughts and expressions on paper. And this is just a little example of it. Okay, Chapter 5, Combat Essays, Letter to the Editor from the Front Lines, June 30th, 2004. In a letter written by the Adjutant General to the National Guard families, friends, and members, the General sends a well-versed sympathy message for our 2 recently fallen heroes, Second Lieutenant Andre Tyson and Specialist Patrick McCaffrey. The letter mentioned that, as of this date, the state has lost a total of 7 soldiers as a result of conflict in Iraq, 25 seriously wounded and 75 with less serious wounds. The General's message was clear: never forget our fallen comrades, never forget why we serve, to defend freedom. The price of freedom is rising. As much as I would prefer to be home with my loving family, back home rather than here in the combat zone of Iraq, I'm proud to be involved with our nation's quest for the expansion of human rights and liberties. Having grown up in an environment that could be considered somewhat privileged, I have found that it's often commonplace to take our amenities and our rights for granted. After experiencing combat operations in this theater of war, I will never forget. I will forever be changed, both as a man and as an American. I hope to return to America as a better person and a crusader for the proving of the human condition for all citizens on our remarkable planet. If we're only here as mortal beings, ever so briefly, I've learned just how important each moment of time is. Moreover, I have learned how important relationships with family and friends are because they can be gone in an instant. Some Vietnam generational vernacular included, love the one you're with. After our experiences in Iraq, I found that there's a lot of wisdom in that colloquialism. I would venture to say that most, if not all, National Guard soldiers currently deployed in Iraq have developed a new and enlightened respect for and love for our country, our families, and our friends. Please keep the faith and keep the home fries burning. Respectfully, John McBurdy.
Thank you so much, John. I love hearing these insights into these letters, so thank you for that. All righty, next up, once again, I promise this is the last repeat, Michelle Bassett.
Thank you. Get my stuff out from underneath here. So this is a chapter from my science fiction military espionage that is set 500 years in the future. This is chapter 1. There is a prologue to it, but it isn't relevant to the characters. So I'm going to skip that. But in the prologue, there is a major terrorist attack on a planet that is kind of mortal enemies to the main character as far as their governments, or it's kind of a hostile thing. So the name of this novel is Last Chance. I'm about 8,500 words into it, so it's getting there. Chapter 1. Kurt Vance turned his face away from flying shards of crystal as the 600-annum-old Swarovski vase shattered against the wall a half meter from his head. No need to duck. His wife's aim wasn't that good. Damn you! Angry tears shimmered in Macy's eyes. Knowing he was the cause, Kurt forced himself to not look away. I'm sorry. Sorry? Her voice pitched south of hysteria, but not by much. Is that all you can say? In truth, there wasn't more to be said. He'd made a mistake. They both had. Despite their diverse backgrounds and lifestyles, he truly believed they could make their marriage work. He was wrong. Somehow. He had to make her understand. He wasn't leaving her. He was leaving her world and the one he had tried and failed to fit into. The walls of their penthouse, no, her father's penthouse, with the enviable address and coveted view of Zarosvy's blue-green waters, was suffocating him. The stylishly uncomfortable sofa no one ever sat on, the leather-bound first editions with creaseless spines collecting dust on the bookshelf, the beaten copper oil lamp they'd never lit, and worst of all, the ancient sword displayed over the mantel whose finely honed Damascus blade remained forever sheathed. Macy's world was filled with objects not serving their intended purpose, and Kurt had become just part of her collection. Hoping to de-escalate the situation, he kept his voice low. I don't belong here. We both know that. So, that's it then? After everything we've been through, you're just walking away? He forced the words. I suppose I am. With a un-Macy-like snarl, she snatched a pottery jar from a lighted niche beside the fireplace, a Hopi Native American artifact from old Earth, a wedding gift, and reared back. Kurt reached her in 2 strides to grab her throwing arm. He couldn't care less about the antique. But after he was gone, he knew she would never forgive herself for destroying the irreplaceable artifact. She tried to pull away. He didn't let her. That's enough, Mace. Between clenched teeth, her breath came hard and fast, her skin pale over fashion-modeled perfect cheekbones, and those eyes, the clear atmospheric blue of a Karen winter day, an event horizon beyond which he lost all desire to escape. Macy's unique perfume sank claws into his subconscious, a proprietary blend of palais blossom and otherworldly spices worn by no other woman in the galaxy. Olfactory memory, powerful, compelling, a direct link to the most basic of human instincts. They taught him all about that in Valentine Ops training, how it was used to his advantage, how to resist it, but understanding the science did not make him immune to the psychological effect. Her scent reminded him of last night's lovemaking, the feel of her naked on top of him. They were good together, really good. But then sex had never been the problem. Compartmentalize emotions, file them away. He knew what to do, was trained to do. But at that moment, all Kurt wanted was to take his wife in his arms and tell her he loved her and make those tears go away. He kept a firm grip on Macy's throwing arm until she stopped resisting, then gently pried the Hopi powdery from her clenched fingers. He knew he should let her go, widen the distance. Instead, he kept hold of her hand, his thumb unconsciously stroking the inside of her wrist in a rhythmic caress. When he realized what he was doing, he stopped, but the tension between them had altered. The shared awareness of how close they stood. Their eyes met. "Come with me." The words were out before he could stop himself, spoken without a single degree of common sense because, despite everything else, he still loved her. "We could spend time together, just the two of us, maybe find a cabin on a lake, put the galaxy behind us for a while, figure things out, and get busy expanding their family," a thought he kept to himself, not the time to bring up kids, too raw of a subject for both of them. With a shake of her head, she twisted free and turned her back on him, moving to stand before the floor-to-ceiling translucent Duraplast wall that faced the sea. In the far distance, low clouds blurred the line between ocean and sky. When she didn't respond, he moved up behind her, unwilling to give her up without a fight, still clutching the Hopi pottery in one hand. He ran the back of his free one down her bare arm. "Mace." She shivered at his touch, bowed her head. Her shoulder-length blonde hair fell forward, exposing the nape of her neck. He resisted the urge to press a kiss. "You're not playing fair." He trailed his fingers back up her arm in a light caress. "Did you expect me to?" She drew a ragged breath. You know I can't leave, not now. We're opening 2 new boutiques next par annum here in the Federation. And I'm just beginning to make headway with Zensia in negotiating an opening of a first location within the collective. Don't you think the terrorist attack on Partisan City will derail the deal, at least temporarily? Of course it will. Even more reason I can't leave right now. A VidCom can be sent from anywhere. Make it a working leave of absence. Tell your father you want to assess the opening of a boutique on Karen. He'd never believe I was seriously considering Karen as an option. Kurt overlooked the matter-of-fact dismissal of his homeworld. He was used to it. Delic, then, why not there? Although not as cosmopolitan as many Federation worlds, Delic was the capital planet of his home star nation of Karen Union, and therefore the most likely candidate for opening one of their high-end specialty emporiums owned by our father's company. The analytics don't support us opening on Delic either. She shook her head. Karen Union simply isn't our target market. The board would never approve. She meant her father would never approve, and they both knew it. Arthur Robinson's Precious Far Horizons Corporation owned a chain of exclusive shops specializing in rare merchandise and one-of-a-kind items often acquired by unorthodox means. Their boutiques catered to the eccentric, ultra-wealthy elite of the galaxy. Karen Union was too backwater for Robinson's taste. He moved in closer, time to play even less fair. Acquisition's your forte, Mace, not business development. He leaned in to nuzzle the sensitive hollow behind her ear. Isn't there some rare commodity or artifact in Karen Union you'd like to get your hands on? She relaxed into him, an instinctual reaction she probably wasn't even aware of. Brushing a kiss, he slid his free hand around her waist and pulled her in closer. Come with me. We'll go after it together. For a heartbeat, Kurt truly thought they still had a chance, that she'd choose their marriage, choose him over her father and his company, that they could somehow make a life together. But as quickly as Macy succumbed to him, she slipped out of his reach. When she faced him, her expression was taut with suppressed emotion. One manicured hand swept the hair behind her ear, a control-regaining gesture. Far Horizons is mine as much as my father's. I can't just abandon my responsibilities and go traipsing across the galaxy. An exaggeration, something Macy tended to do when upset. Karen Union was the closest independent star nation to the border of Federation-controlled space. At faster than light speed, only a few DMs from the Fed's capital world of Nexus. Distance was irrelevant to the discussion. He stuck to the point. That's a choice you'll have to make. Oh no, don't you go turning this whole thing around. You're the one leaving, and I'm the one asking, come with me. Pent-up frustration distorted her beautiful features. She stomped her foot, a childish outburst incongruent with the well-bred sophistication. Damn it, Kurt, Daddy needs me. And there it was, the root of the problem. The tug-of-war he was never able to win against Arthur Robinson. Tightness closed his throat. So do I. Macy's bottom lip trembled, fresh tears brimming in her eyes. With a torn, choked sound, she fled past him, each receding tap, 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 tap of designer boots, crossing tiled entry, a hammer blow. The security door swished open, then closed with a civilized, mechanized finality. Kurt didn't go after her, didn't even turn around. For a long time he stood there, just staring out the Duraplast window at the ocean, the silent crash of waves against the shoreline, surreal, like a holovid with the sound turned down. Remembering the Hopi pottery still clutched in his hand, he replaced the jar in the niche, taking care to center the artifact beneath the tiny spotlight. Someone had used this a long time ago, to hold water or store grain maybe. Now it sat on a shelf, a coveted hunk of chipped and discolored clay. He made a lot of mistakes in his life. Deciding to leave the Robinsons' perfect world wasn't one of them. That's it.
All righty. Thank you so much, Michelle. Next up, we have Greg Porterfield.
Well, let's see here. In about 2018, I wrote this book called Limited Visibility. And you know how all the time you revise and revise and revise? Well, I've done it a couple times with this book too. And recently, through the Guild, there was some email about this I don't know if a contest is right word here, but it's a project, an indie author project. And they were wanting submissions to this thing. And I guess libraries all over the country want to give a special benefit to independent authors. And so you can submit your manuscript to them in ebook form. Well, I don't really like ebooks that well. I really kind of just like something I can hold and look at. So if you're interested in what I'm going to read to you, this QR code, you can scan in and it will take you to the book that I'm going to read a portion of. It's called Limited Visibility. And, you know, we all kind of like villains, the bad guys in stories. So this little section kind of deals with a couple of the villains that are involved through the story. The main character is just a kind of common guy caught up in a really bizarre situation. This is Thursday, August 25th, near midnight. As midnight approaches, wisps of light fog move from the water and settle in Seattle's Pioneer Square. In an alley on Post Street, an old rundown red brick building is dark except for a single light bulb hanging from the ceiling in an upstairs room. A dark Lexus is parked in the building's first floor garage behind a faded green roll-down metal door. A worn sign stenciled at eye level on a rusted metal side door reads, Luna Exports International. The three-story brick building is sandwiched tightly between two other equally unimpressive brick structures. The trio of lifeless brick buildings share only one characteristic. They've been forgotten in the shadow of another era. In a circle of light below the single light bulb on the top floor of Luna Exports, a raven-haired woman is strapped tightly to a wooden chair anchored to the rough plank floor. She's nearly naked and glistens with sweat. In the shadows, her clothes are piled on a long table. Tonight is not the first time this room has been used for the singular purpose of extracting information from the uncooperative. A tall, thin man stands bent at the waist, holding the bound victim's chin in one hand. The sleeves of his white dress shirt are rolled back nearly to the elbow, exposing twirls and twists and ringlets of a colorful tattoo found among criminal members of the Yamaguchi Gumi. The fingers of the gangster's other hand are spreading the woman's eyelids to check the condition of her pupils. "You gave her too much. She is unconscious again," he says, growling at his companion in perfect English. "Have you found anything in her clothes?" "Nothing, Lee. I've ripped open all the seams and there's nothing here." "Well, we better come up with something, Tashi. Keep looking." Lee shoots back with a little irritation. "Wake her up again. Get her to tell us where it is," Tashi says, picking up a bucket of water and handing it to Lee. In frustration, Lee takes a bucket and with a mighty thrust hits the woman full force with the bucket's contents in her face and upper body. The concussion echoes in the darkness and is followed by the slow drip of water draining down her body and onto the floor. "Tashi, come here. I can't get a pulse," Lee declares, looking quickly toward his co-conspirator. "I think she's gone." "Shit, let me check." The short, stocky Tashi walks into the glare of the single light bulb and grabs the woman's neck in his stubby paws. Feeling for a pulse, the look directed at his companion tells the story. Lee and Tashi stand motionless, staring at the woman hanging limply in her restraints. They have failed. Tashi turns and walks over to a table a few feet from the body and begins packing the unused vials back into a black satchel. Vials of chemicals and other tools of torment that have previously proven so effective in eliciting information. "I can't believe that bitch cut me," Tashi complains, adjusting the bandage on his hand. "I never even saw the knife." "They said she was a fighter." "Such a waste," Lee said quietly. "Looks like she was one tight piece of ass." "So what do we do now?" "Dump the body in the trees like always," Lee decrees without emotion, as he begins spreading a heavy plastic tarp on the floor in front of the chair. Tashi loosens restraints and grabs her by the wrist. Giving a quick, practiced tug, he swings the body unceremoniously onto the center of the tarp. "What do we do with her clothes?" "Just dump them on top of her and roll her like a cigar." Tashi begins covering the lifeless frame with a skirt and the woman's blood-stained blouse. Useless dark leather riding boots and a long shearling coat with bone buttons are dumped on top of the body. Bending down, he roughly pries a blood-soaked ring with a large black onyx stone set in platinum from her right hand. Blank, dead eyes do not acknowledge this final act of violence. "Don't think she'll need this anymore," Tashi says without remorse, pocketing the ring before wrapping the plastic tarp around the body. Folding in the top and bottom of the tarp, he roughly rolls the package and ties it securely with 4 pieces of rope. Hoisting it over his shoulder, he calmly walks to the freight elevator. Tashi quietly waits while Lee finishes the cleanup. They take the freight elevator down to the garage and without talking, before roughly tossing the body into the trunk of the Lexus. Within minutes, they're driving on Interstate 5 on the way to their favorite dump site in the Capitola State Forest. Along the way, they pick up a bucket of fried chicken from the drive-thru in Olympia. It's been a long day, and they know that they'll be hungry later. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Greg. All righty. Finally, last but not least, we have Liam Bruce.
So this is actually from a work in progress, work in progress. It hasn't been a work in progress for a few years. But this was originally the prologue for that, and now I'm not sure where it's going to fit into that work in progress, but I thought it would be good to read today. So this is a sci-fi western. Jake strummed his guitar into the dust-filled wind, plucking at the strings, feeling the instrument more than hearing it. Not that he had been listening to it anyway. He never did learn to play the damn thing. It had served these past years as a distraction for idle hands rather than a skill he looked to foster. What he was listening to was the desert, listening for the sound of approaching military transports, or something worse. As far as he knew, no arbiter had ever left the order, let alone betrayed it. If he had known that the man he had found dying in the desert was the first, he'd have left him there to be swallowed up by the Badlands. Jake's homestead was just one step along the trail those bastards would be following to catch up with their traitor. The distinct whine of an air sled broke the thought. Jake strummed a final misshapen chord from his guitar and scanned the horizon for the source of the approaching sound. The wind seemed to pick up as he caught the sight of it. The brushed silver body sparkled against the pale blue sky as the sled screamed over the sand toward him. Jake leaned the guitar against the stoop of his porch and pulled the pistol from its home on his thigh. The black metal showed its age in the places where the holster's leather had not protected it over the years it spent unused. Jake dropped the magazine from the grip of the old weapon into his free hand and checked the ammunition. 9 rounds. He prayed as he slid the magazine back into the gun and returned it to the holster. Standing up, he watched the vehicle glide to a stop, just short of crossing the self-imposed property line. It hovered less than a meter over the sand. He took note of the enhanced stabilizer wings and enclosed cabin. Expensive. He'd have preferred the military transport. Union Marines would have likely beaten him until they were satisfied that he couldn't give them what they were looking for. But unlike an arbiter, they were rarely investigators, and they couldn't easily kill you with impunity. If an arbiter decided it was necessary, they'd put a round through his head and move on to the next poor bastard unlucky enough to find himself connected to an investigation. The canopy slid back, revealing a slender figure, a woman, eyes concealed behind darkened shade goggles, and her head wrapped in a charcoal-colored cloth. She dismounted. The black-gripped mag revolver strapped to her thigh, cradled in dark leather, demanded his attention. "Can I help you?" he called out. The woman looked his homestead up and down. 30 clicks to the nearest settlement. Man could walk that in maybe 8 hours? 30 clicks sound about right to you? Clicks? He faked confusion. Kilometers. I'm looking for an arbiter. Would have been injured, headed northeast. You see him? Jake brought his hands to rest on his belt. You're the first I've seen. The arbiter's hand lingered near her weapon's grip. Jake knew he wouldn't be able to outdraw her, even if he was inclined to try. Mind if I search your... She glanced past him, seemingly looking for the right word. Residence? Go on right ahead. You won't find nothing. The arbiter crossed Jake's yard to his door. Wait out here. She wasn't long. There was only one room to check, after all. She emerged from the threshold and walked down the porch's stairs, her head wrap and goggles now hanging around her neck, no longer covering her face. The strap meant to secure her revolver in its holster was now undone, and the hook and loop unit patch sat cradled in her offhand, almost deferentially. Damn. She looked the patch up and down, then raised her hand to show him. The 13th? The inscription sat just above and below the embroidered head of a coiled snake. 13th Infantry Division, Vestige Vipers. He let his gaze fall to her weapon. Relax. If I wanted to use it, we wouldn't be having this conversation. That's supposed to make me feel better? She cocked an eyebrow, and Jake could almost swear he saw a smirk flick across her lips. No. She handed him the patch. Hide it. She stepped past him, putting her goggles on as she walked toward her sled. The war is over, Mr. Viper. No sense adding another old man to the casualty count. That's it? That's it. I've never heard of an arbiter going easy on anyone. What's the catch? No catch. I've more pressing concerns than an old soldier hiding out in the Badlands. She fastened her holster. And hide it well. I'm not the only one looking for an arbiter out here. She climbed into the cabin of her sled. And Union Marines aren't forgiving, especially to an old Vestige Viper. The cabin cover slid closed, the engine whirled to life, and as quickly as she had come, she was gone. Jake took a long look at the patch. No, they aren't.
All righty. Thank you so much, Liam. Now, that brings us to the conclusion of the 2024 October Prose Reading. for the JoLynne Buehring Memorial Prose Reading. So thank you all to everyone who submitted and everyone who attended and read. And thank you so much. We will see you next year for the 4th annual JoLynne Buehring Prose meeting. I'll now hand it back off to Michelle.
Thank you, Jessica, for handling the prose reading. It's always nice to have someone else up here talking instead of me. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Michelle Bassett. I'm the president of this auspicious group. Next meeting isn't until January. We are dark in November. Did you want something? Oh, thank you. I always forget to do that. The tech guy is so pushy. So our next meeting isn't until January. We're dark in November and December. We all have enough to do over the holidays without having to worry about meetings. However, we'll still be sending out things to you, shout outs on successes, that sort of thing. Our next speaker, Liam, if you could bring it up, will be Ben Spada. I don't know if you can bring that up there or not. He is get his little bio here. Okay, we'll pop it on the thing. Maybe Kevin can stick a link into the Zoom. But Ben Spada is author of the Black Spear series. He was born and raised in California. He's a lifelong passion for storytelling. He's also a dedicated taco aficionado, proud Phil Am and lumpia enthusiast as he served in the U.S. Marine Corps for the past decade. He is active duty, and he's taught martial arts, operated as section leader in the Wounded Warrior Battalion, and served overseas to help train our foreign military allies in defense against chemical, biological, and nuclear weapons. He's trained the Marines, sailors, federal agents, and other friendly forces in individual survival measures. Despite this grim assignment, he has carried on with equal amounts of sarcasm and stoicism, and he's a good writer. He also lives just in Fallbrook, and so he'll be here in person in January in the room to talk about creativity and how to get jump started with your writing in January. So he's a really great guy. I hope everyone can be here. Last couple reminders. Volunteers, we're always looking for people to help with the setup in the room prior to the meeting. We get here about 8:15. And membership, it's that time of the year to renew. We've already got, I think, 3 or 4 people that have already paid for 2025. They jumped the gun a bit, but that's fine with us. We'll be adjourning now, and lunch at Emilio's for those who would like to join us. And that's it. It's a wrap for 2024. Thank you all.